Hello and welcome to Sunday Politics in Northern Ireland. It's one of the most controversial issues of the moment, whether or not people of the same sex should be allowed to get married. Tomorrow, a joint Sinn Féin Green Party motion in support of the move will be debated in the Assembly, but the local parties are hopelessly split on the issue, so there's little chance of any consensus. With me to discuss the mathematics, the Green Party's Stephen Agnew. Plus tens of thousands on the streets of Belfast to commemorate the signing of the Ulster Covenant. Is this a blueprint for future commemorations? Alex Kane and Noel Doran will be joining me later with their thoughts. Now, gay marriage is rarely out of the news these days, and there's been no shortage of controversy surrounding the idea both here and in the rest of the UK. The views of the veteran Ulster Unionist Ken McGuinness on the subject led to his departure from the party. The SDLP leader and one of his MLAs had a recent public disagreement on the issue too. It's up for debate in the Assembly tomorrow. Sinn Féin and the Green Party have brought the motion in support of it. Stephen Agnew, the leader of the Green Party in Northern Ireland, is with me now. Hello to you. Thank you for joining us on the Politics programme. Tell me why you think that it's worth the Assembly's time to be debating an issue which, frankly, you are unlikely to get through.
I think it's important that we do have the debate. For example, we have the Prime Minister of the UK, the leader of the Tory party, able to say that he can support equal marriage, but in Northern Ireland we haven't even had the debate in the Assembly chamber, the chamber that decides the legislation on this issue. Currently we have civil partnerships, but civil partnerships are not equal to marriage, and they're also separate. We talk about a shared future. We want the shared future for everyone, and not this idea of separate but equal. Currently, if you're in a civil partnership, you can't adopt in Northern Ireland, although you can in England, Scotland and Wales. And equally, if you're a religious couple, you can't have any form of religious ceremony, even if there's a church willing to do so. So even the churches are barred from performing civil partnerships or same-sex marriage by the law. We think this is an issue of religious freedom. So, for example, a couple who of mixed sex or atheist can have a religious wedding, but two devout Christians who happen to be in a same-sex relationship can't have a religious ceremony. So these are issues that we think need to be addressed.
But there are even those within the gay community who feel that the legislation has gone far enough, and there are people from that community who would say gay marriage we don't actually need.
Well, that's up for those to decide, and this is an issue of, as I say, religious freedom and freedom of conscience. If we pass this legislation, if the motion was to pass and be followed by legislation, we'd have the situation where people would have choice. People in a same-sex relationship would have the choice to get married. Churches would have the choice about whether or not they would allow same-sex couples to have religious ceremonies in their churches. It's sometimes perceived that the church is wholly against this, but we have to remember there's groups such as Changing Attitudes Ireland within the Church of Ireland who want to see equal marriage. I spoke to the Reverend Chris Hudson of All Souls Church in Belfast. He'd like to perform same-sex marriage. So there are various views within the religious institutions.
Do you have any idea how many couples would be affected by this in Northern Ireland? Can you put a figure on it?
Well, we have around about 100 couples a year getting performing civil partnerships. Around 650, I think it is, since the legislation's come in.
So it's tiny, out of a population of 1.8 million.
It's not about numbers, it's about civil rights and about equality. We still have homophobia prevalent in our society, and the state should be sending a message that same-sex couples are equal to couples of different sex, that it's the substance of marriage, the commitment and the love that's important, not the form, i.e. the gender of the people involved.
The difficulty is, of course, that when you take this to the floor of the Assembly tomorrow, you are not going to get agreement because there's a huge amount of division. I'll get your thoughts on that in a moment, but let's just remind ourselves of what the DUP Junior Minister Jonathan Bell had to say on what is for him a very controversial issue. He talked about it on the floor of the Assembly just last week.
There are no plans to change the definition of marriage in Northern Ireland. To do so, as members would know, would require the agreement of the Executive, and parties on the Executive are hopelessly divided in terms of a position in relation to that. The DUP is very clear that they see gay marriage as an oxymoron. They see marriage between a man and a woman. The Alliance Party and Sinn Féin are united in their position of support for gay marriage. And if you want to hear both sides of the argument, you can ask Mike Nesbitt and Alistair MacDonald, because depending which of their MLAs you speak to, one will agree with it and another won't.
So that was Jonathan Bell. The SDLP and the Ulster Unionists do not have united fronts on this. And on Friday night we had this petition of concern placed by the DUP, which means that even if you get a majority tomorrow, it will be overturned because you need cross-community support.
Well, 2 points on that. One, from speaking to the other political parties, this is going to be a very close vote, too close to call at this stage. So the Assembly is around 50-50, so it's not going to be a clear majority against it by any means. But equally, the petition of concern is being abused. The petition of concern, the legislation which put the petition of concern in place, was designed to protect minorities from abuse of the majority. In this case, the petition of concern is being used to prevent the extension of rights to a minority group. It's not what the legislation was for.
But the DUP are perfectly entitled to use it if they want to.
The legislation allows them to,
yeah.
But it's an abuse of the system.
Well, in your view it is.
Well, the whole point of the petition of concern was to stop one side of the House imposing its will on the other side. But this isn't a Protestant, Catholic, a Unionist, national split. We have people on both sides support, people on both sides against. It's not what the petition of concern was for.
In the meantime, what happens tomorrow is that you have potentially a heated debate on the floor of the Assembly chamber, and you allow people to restate trenchant positions, which perhaps doesn't move the debate on. We might get a lot of heat tomorrow and very little light. How does that help? How does that help your case?
We haven't had any signal from the body that can legislate on this issue what its views are, because we've never had a debate on this issue in the Assembly.
The signal we're going to get is that the body that legislates can't make up its mind.
The signal we're going to get is in and around half of the Assembly supports this at this point and stage. That means, we can see how much work's to do.
So you want to put down a marker? Is that what you're saying?
We want to get this debated by the people who legislate on the issue, the people who ultimately decide, because there's all these polls out there saying, X% people support it, but we need to know what the people who legislate think. And when people go to the polls next time around, they'll know what the people who are voting for think. And the fact that it's been pointed out that some of the parties are split in this issue is meaning the conversation is now taking place within parties, so it's taking the issue forward because now people are discussing it.
And briefly, how will you judge whether or not tomorrow's debate has been a success from your point of view?
Well,
what's your yardstick?
Well, it's already a success because, as I say, within parties we're now discussing this issue. I think that's a step forward. We have a Conservative Prime Minister who's now in favour of equal marriage, and we should at least be able to debate it in Northern Ireland. But I think when we see the numbers in the Assembly, it will give other MLAs the strength to come out next time around when they see the amount of support there is in the Assembly chamber for this.
Well, we will watch tomorrow's debate with interest. Stephen Agnew of the Green Party for now. Thank you very much indeed for coming in to join us.
Thank you.